Hello, beautiful human being. This is my first podcast that I'm recording video, and I can't wait to show you. This conversation is with my friend Juju. She's one of my friends that I met down in Costa Rica. She is such a lovely human being. I'll let you get to know her. I just wanted to tell you a couple things before the podcast itself starts. The first thing is that I like to throw you guys right into when I feel like the conversation is starting to pick up. So, to give you some necessary background for what's going on, she's talking about her recent move from New York City to Hudson Valley, where she felt more connected to nature. On top of that, I messed up my mic settings while I was recording, and you could hear Juju's voice echoing in the background. I had to muffle my voice a little bit so that that wasn't a problem anymore. Hopefully, it doesn't bother you too much. Other than that, I hope you enjoy our beautiful conversation.
I wrote it in my little book. It's like um to crave connection is to crave clarity, and to seek it is to seek your highest self.
Mm,
And nobody or I shouldn't say nobody, but I don't feel like that energy for me was met in the city. I think for
totally.
me that energy meets more up here.
Mm, heck yeah.
At least that's how I connect with it, you know.
Yeah, totally. I love that so much. In a lot of spiritual traditions, they say that the deepest desire of humans, of all of life, is a felt experience of connection. And I think it's really, really beautiful. Yeah, in A Course in Miracles, they talk about how connection is all there is. That's it. Everything is connected to everything else. And we're like waves in the ocean. We're having the experience as a wave, but ultimately we're coming out of this ocean of energy and we will return to this ocean of energy. And it's
Yeah,
fun being a wave, but ultimately we're not the wave. We're the whole ocean.
you're the whole damn thing.
Yeah, and I think that I was actually at an Indian wedding one time with my boy Nirme. Nirme, if you're listening to this, shout out. What's up, bro? But I was at an Indian wedding with him and his brother, and it was such a beautiful wedding. It was in Cancun, right on the ocean. It was at this all-inclusive resort, so I definitely made my money back. Let me put it that way. And I remember at the ceremony, the Hindu priest came up to Pius and Sanjana, who were getting married, and the first line he said was that it is in the depth of connection we feel when we fall in love that we are reminded of our connection to all things.
Mm,
And I was like, oh my
I have
God.
goosebumps.
Yeah, me too. I literally had the goosebumps. And I think that that's one of the most beautiful parts about being a human is that we have experiences where we're feeling more disconnected from ourselves, that we're feeling more disconnected from nature. And it's almost that polarity that gives us this deep gratitude and appreciation for when we do find that place we feel connected to, when we do find those people that we feel connected to, when we find those friends, when we fall in love, when we're doing those things that we love doing. I mean, I think it's just the dopest part about being a human being. Because if we were in love all the time, I mean, that would be freaking cool, 100%. But it's really this contrast that it feels more like a roller coaster, you know? We have our ups, and then we go, and then up, and then down, and then up. And it's kind of fun. Like, it's kind of
Yeah.
fun having the duality. It's actually something that I've been trying to be more intentional about is I started to notice that when I have a bad day, a lot of times if I try to have a good day, I feel worse. Like it's like I'm trying to force myself to feel a way that I just don't feel right now.
Yeah.
And it just I feel a lot more anxious. I feel a lot more overwhelmed when I start doing this. So I've been trying to just kind of roll with it. And, I think that there is a healthy balance between not wallowing in despair in terms of like, oh, this is the way that it will always be. I'm horrible. I hate myself because I feel this way. I think that I feel horrible doing. But on the other side, when I'm just saying, what can I do? What's wrong? What's going on? How can I fix this? How can I feel better? How can I almost feel equally as overwhelmed. I think sometimes just kind of allowing myself to be sad or be upset actually feels really nice. And even more, kind of what you were talking about earlier with you're a big giver. I'm definitely a big giver as well. So something I've been more intentional about this year is trying to allow people to give to me and just allowing myself to be loved. And if I'm having a bad day, just calling a friend and just saying, hey, like I'm just having a bad day and not needing them to fix it, not needing them to make me feel better, but just wanting them to listen and be with me because I found a lot of times, like 9 times out of 10, that's more fulfilling to me than someone, I guess, trying to fix my problems or tell me how I should go about changing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's this, I call it an emphasis on existing within the pit. And it's about feeling those darker moments, feeling those deeper, maybe what we would call not so great feelings. Because essentially, if we don't allow ourselves to exist in this pit, we're allowing those feelings to sink deeper into our bodies, deeper into our systems, our psyches, our systems. And it makes it harder for those things to come up and come out,
Mm,
right? A lot of the times I like to think of it as out the mouth, out the mind. So you don't allow it to fester within your body and allow it to inhibit you from doing other things and other tasks. And sometimes those other things and those other tasks are the positive ones, the ones that clearing out these negative spaces, existing within the pit and fully feeling, allow us to fully exist in those highs too, in those happy moments, in those positive energies, like in that vibration. It's completely different, and it should feel different. Your sad moments should not feel the same as your happy moments. There's a separation for a reason, and they need one another to exist. So if you're not fully allowing yourself to exist in that pit of your sadness, your despair, your wallow, whatever it may be, you're not also fully allowing yourself to exist in those greater moments, those
mm,
more achieving moments, those more connective moments. It takes away from your experience if you're not fully allowing yourself to experience all ranges of those emotions. And sure, we can think of good like emotions and we can think of bad emotions, good vibrations, bad vibrations. Sure, there are some ones that are better than others or feel better to experience than others. But rather than thinking of them on this linear, very graphed kind of chart, if we think about them more existing within a circle, if we think about them all existing sporadically throughout that Venn diagram, we see like there are some overlaps. They don't exist in this hierarchy. They exist in this fluidity, this connection, and needing one another to fully succeed and to fully feel that. You know, the same
yeah,
way you can never fully feel connection if you are just keeping yourself in isolation.
yeah,
You have
totally.
to experience it all to
Yeah,
feel it all.
totally. That's so true. That's
Yeah.
yeah, that was so well put. I've never really thought about it that way, that yeah, like, if we deny ourselves really the depth of pain that we feel, we're also denying ourselves joy and bliss and love.
Yeah.
It's true. I really do think that pain and suffering, they show us who we're not, and in this way, they show us who we are. I think
Mm-hmm.
we feel pain when we're living or speaking or being in a way that's not really aligned with who we are. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's equally as important to feel those things so you can kind of redirect and change course to be more yourself.
And I think you get to this point when you are feeling all of your emotions, you can say to yourself and your system, like, oh, sure, I'm feeling really anxious right now. And this is giving me a lot of anxiety and a lot of circling thoughts. However, I also know that this anxiety can also sit in my body and manifest differently, but is very similar to excitement. So, yes, I have anxiety over this. Yes, I feel some not so great feelings over this, but I need to feel those because this anxiety is going to manifest differently soon and feel that excitement again.
Mm,
But if I
totally.
don't allow myself to feel and acknowledge this anxiety, I'm never going to understand that on the other side of this hurdle is the excitement. That
Yeah.
maybe I'm nervous or I'm anxious because achieving that means I hit that goal. I
Mm,
hit that point and I'm happy that I got there. But that also means that maybe there's a new goal to set. Maybe
mm,
there's a new expectation for myself. Maybe there's a new type of excitement. And sometimes we hold ourselves back from that excitement because we're more used to sitting in the anxiety.
mm, totally.
And we're
What's
not
the time
ready
that
for
you
those changes to feel like those feelings to change.
yeah. What's the time that you feel like you do this?
Oh gosh, I feel like I do that the most I think I do that the most in regards to love, to be completely honest. Like, I
You
feel
do.
like I'm like, oh my God, I have such anxiety over this. How is this going to play out? What's our invisible thread? How are we connected? Is this going to be forever? Like, I am always radically looking for love in friendships, in relationships, in jobs, careers, anything connective. I'm like, love, love, love. Like, but I won't lie that I haven't had always the best experiences with it. So there are some moments that I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so anxious over this, or I'm anxious about meeting this new person, or I don't like the way that this date went, or I feel in my head about my body over these certain things. And I'll keep myself back. Like, I'll hold myself back with those thoughts and isolate um, until I acknowledge that that's what I'm doing,
Mm,
and I'll feel what I'll have to feel. I'll journal what I need to journal, call up who I need to talk to, get that catharsis going. But ultimately, those are not feelings that should stop me from craving connection. Those are not feelings that should inhibit me from radically looking for love. Those are just moments that I stop, I pause, and I say, oh, I'm anxious right now. Why am I anxious right now? Well, I'm anxious right now because of this past relationship or this past experience with this person, and it makes me not want to move forward to the exciting parts of this experience, of this exchange, of this, relationship with this person.
mm,
But if I stick in that negativity, if I stick in that anxiety, if I stay in that, I never see the excitement.
mm,
So it's acknowledging it, it's sitting with it, and it's also moving through it. It's not letting that fester. It's not letting that cycle continue. It's about fully feeling everything I need to feel. But when I'm ready, moving on and allowing those feelings to push me further.
totally.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that so much. I think it's incredibly brave to look at love in that way, because I think that, I don't know, I think it's really easy to think about the times in love where we feel anxious and it just makes us want to protect ourselves. But to really be able to, I guess, take the anxiety for what it is at face value and just kind of think about, I'm anxious because I care. I'm anxious because this is something that I want. I'm anxious
Mm-hmm.
because I have been hurt in the past, but, I've learned and I think I can trust my intuition more than I did in the
Yeah.
past. I think that's a really, really beautiful way to look at
I think
things.
so too. I do these continuous questions with myself, especially when I don't know what I'm why I might in that moment be feeling a certain thing. And it's like my higher self and my ego self kind of like talking to one another. My ego self trying to figure out what's going on, and my higher self guiding them through that. But there's this internal dialogue between them. And like, let's say I'm like, okay, well, why do I like the color blue? I will only ask a question and answer a question. So my higher self will ask a question, my ego self will answer a question. And I just keep going until there are no more answers to give. And once I get that ending answer, I'm like, oh, there's my clarity. So it could be like, why do I like the color blue? I don't know. Why do you like the color blue? Well, the color blue makes me think of communication. Well, why does it make you think of communication? Well, because maybe all of these like apps are blue, or because I used to have a journal when I was a kid that was blue. Great, you had a journal as a kid that was blue. How did that make you feel when it comes to connection? Well, connection for me as a kid meant writing, it meant reading. Great, cool. You're connected to literature, to writing, to reading. What does that do for you now? And I'll continue that thought process and ask myself questions and questions and questions again until I get to that last answer, till I
Mm,
get to that clarity. But it takes sitting in those questions, it takes sitting in those pits, it takes actually hearing the difference in how you speak to yourself from your ego and from your higher, because they are very different. And when you can start to hear the way, the languages that each one uses, even the names that they call you by, it makes those conversations easier to have with yourself. It makes that clarity easier to find within yourself as well. I find that my higher self will refer to me as I, as me, as Juliana. Like it comes through in those types of words, in needing, and things like that as well. Whereas my ego self will come from things like wanting or you, or it feels almost disconnected the way that my ego self will talk to myself.
Mm,
Let's say it's in the morning, I'm feeling a little sluggish. I know I probably shouldn't have caffeine, but I want coffee, right? My ego self will say something like, you should make coffee this morning. You need coffee this morning, or you
mm,
want coffee this morning. Where my higher self might go, you're craving energy this morning. You don't, I might hear it in my brain of more like, Juliana, you're craving energy, rather than my ego self saying, you should go make coffee.
mm.
And
Wow, that's
there's
like,
this
yeah,
difference of language when you sit in that conversation with yourself that you can hear. So
yeah,
when you have moments when you're out and about and you don't know what to do or which direction to go, you can hear the way that you speak to yourself. You can hear the way your higher self speaks,
dude,
and you
this
can
is
know
freaking
which
sick.
direction to go in.
I love that. Dude,
Yeah.
that's so cool. I feel like you could just use that for so many things. I mean, I
So
feel
many
like
things.
it in life, half the battle is just figuring out the way that you're actually feeling. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like this is such a cool tool to really stay honest with yourself and to figure out, yeah, how you do really feel.
Yeah. Because, I mean, think about it. When you speak to yourself, how do you refer to yourself? Do you have any
Sexy
names or
mofo, you know.
nicknames or anything?
That's so true. I think, now that you're saying it, I think it really depends on my state of being, like kind of
Mm.
how I'm feeling that day. I actually was journaling about this morning. I've been reading this book. It's called I had it somewhere around here, but it's Thich Nhat Hanh, or
Mm.
Thay. He's this guy right here,
Mm.
and he passed away actually on my birthday 2 years ago. Which fun fact. So, but yeah, he's a Zen. He was and still is, I believe. He's in the trees, but he's a Zen Buddhist master, and Zen Buddhism to me is my love language. It's just I read it, and I would say like legitimately half the time I start crying when I start reading what's in Zen Buddhism, because I just feel like it's a comprehensive thought system that just has no holes. It makes perfect sense. It talks about death and birth and life and our connection to nature. And one of the teachings that I was reading this morning, that it just is so beautiful, that I literally wrote down that I'm going to start practicing this every single day. But it talks about how, so there's three ways of karma that we can be, three ways of interacting with the world that they talk about in Zen. It's our thoughts. Our thoughts impact who we are in the world around us. Our words impact who we are in the world around us, and our actions impact who we are in the world around us. And they say in Zen that if you're in right thinking, right speaking, right action, it will bring about nourishment and healing. And that I mean, those words just kind of, I don't even need to describe it more. It'll bring about nourishment and healing. And if you're in a way of being that's not aligned with who you are, you'll feel anger, you'll feel frustration, you'll feel anxiety, you'll
Mm.
feel fear. And so they talk about one of the first practices that you practice in Zen with mindfulness is noticing how certain thoughts make you feel. Not about, oh, I'm thinking about this relationship and I need to figure out X. I think sometimes we focus so much on what X is. For example, oh my gosh, this person, I'm not sure if they like me. Um, I'm not sure if I'm communicating well. I'm not sure. And so we kind of get down these spirals of what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong. And we think that what's going to make us feel okay is figuring out what's wrong. Oh, am I not communicating well? Are they not attracted to me? Am I being self-conscious? Am I projecting my own insecurities? And you kind of just go down this whole rabbit hole, and it's the end of the rabbit hole that you're seeking. And in Zen, they say that the end will never actually arrive, because it's the thoughts themselves that are not true. And so they would say
Mhm.
any anxious spiral that you're in, it's revolving around a perception about yourself that's not true. And so, for example, let's take the love thing that we were just talking about. Oh, did this person not love me because of X? Did this person not love me because of whatever? They would say, take a step back, and somewhere along the way, yeah, like I said, I mean, maybe the perception about myself in that situation that I would be making is that there's something that I could do that would make me undeserving of love. There's something
Mm,
that I could do that would make me not connected to this beautiful human being, or that if the relationship changes, if we go our own ways, that means that there was never love there, or that means that
mm,
there was something inherently wrong with me. Because I actually think that a lot of times when we go down that anxious thinking, we kind of manifest what we're anxious about. So the biggest fear there is that there's part of me that's unlovable. There's part of me that's unlovable. There's part of me that's unlovable. And then you're just kind of coming at the other person with this energy of, you need to love me. 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 And
mm,
as someone who's been in this, plenty of times on both sides of it, I feel like that's an energy of like, if I'm on the other end of that where somebody's coming at me with love me, love me, love me, love me, it feels overwhelming for me because I can't be the reason that you love yourself. I can't be the reason that you feel like there's something wrong with you. I know that there's something wrong with you, but if you're looking for me to tell you that, it's not love anymore. Like there's something that's off about that. I can't be the only one to fill your cup. And so in that way they kind of push me away. And vice
mm,
versa, when I'm on the side of love me, love me, love me, love me, love me, that person is like, "Whoa, like I love you so much that I can't be the one to tell you that you're perfect just the way that you are. I can't be the only one. It would be a disservice to you. It would be a disservice to this beautiful world where I want you to go explore and do all these beautiful things where you realize that you're not just connected to me, you're connected to these hobbies that you love and your family that you love, whether that's blood related
mhm,
family or not, or you're connected to nature or you're connected to this. And that's the beautiful thing about love is that it never limits. And I think if we find ourselves in a relationship where love is limiting, then we're kind of perpetuating one of those thought distortions that's not true.
mm.
So, do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. No, I absolutely do know what you're saying. I feel like I've also had many experiences of that on both ends. Um, Nobody's perfect in love or how they receive it or how they give it, and it definitely changes over time. I think one thing that I've taken away from these experiences and also from what you're talking at as well is that I don't want to be needed by
Mm,
somebody. I don't want someone to look at me and say, like, I need you in my life. I want somebody who wants me because
mm,
that's exactly where I'm at as well. It's like, I'm fully capable of loving myself. I am fully capable of giving myself everything that I have deserved, desired, and craved from a lover, a partner, whomever. However, I want you and I
yeah,
appreciate you. And I want them to meet themselves there as well.
mm,
Because it really is true. You both need to fill your cups individually and give from the overflow. You cannot be everything to everyone, nor should you want to be everything to everyone. I think that could be like really detrimental to the relationship, whatever type of relationship you may have. I think that this extends beyond love as well, and it really goes into family, into friendships, which of course, yes, there's love there, but if we're speaking of like different types of relationships, it extends beyond the romantic ones.
mm,
And it's a beautiful thing to crave love. It's a beautiful thing to receive love, but it's even more of a beautiful experience when you can give that to yourself.
mm,
And I think it's incredibly beautiful when you can have passion for somebody else, but you primarily have passion for yourself.
mm,
And you have hobbies and a life and communities that you go and make stories with and share experiences and conversations with, and then you can come back into your relationship and share those things. Like, it
yeah,
should be about sharing your life. It shouldn't be about adjusting yourself or your life for someone else, which I
yeah,
see a lot of. And again, I have been on both sides of. I
Mm,
think as a community, as a collective, as a society, we're really great at codependence. But if we're codependent on ourselves, if we're independent, I think that's fantastic. And I think that that's a great place to start. You don't need to be hyper independent and do everything on your own and make everything perfect, but it's important to be independent, to hold your own, whether that's financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to have that life built already and to know who you are.
mm,
I think so many times people call in others, call in partners when they're not ready as well, when they haven't met themselves. How can you expect to meet your life partner if you've never met yourself before? How
mm,
could you actually meet somebody on your vibration, on your level, on your frequency, if you don't know what that level, that vibration, or that frequency is?
mhm,
If you're not radically meeting yourself, how do you expect to radically meet people who are on and operate on the same level as you? Are you always going to want to dim your light to meet somebody else? Are you always going to have to reach to meet somebody else? Or do you actually want to find people on your level? Do you
mm,
actually want to find people who can meet you, can see you, can share maybe not always your opinions and your points of view, but can share conversations about that?
totally.
Can make you want to further your growth with one another, not just with yourself either. Like that is what we should be looking and what we should be craving for. But it takes meeting ourselves first to do that. And if we are masking when we meet other people, if we are shape shifting into some idea that you think that they might want, because at some point in the line we might have felt undeserving of love. We might not feel like we are worthy of that experience or that connection, or maybe even this specific person. So we shape ourselves. We reframe ourselves to make ourselves more appeasable for these people, these experiences, these meetings. And sometimes those meetings go great and you end up with them for like 3 years. And sometimes during that 3 years, you're like, I don't feel like myself. This doesn't feel like my partner anymore. They have changed. I have changed. We are different. We're not growing together anymore. But truthfully, you were never growing together because you never fully showed up as who you actually are. You were masking, you were changing, you were being someone for them. You were never being yourself. So as you grew and you softened and you found yourself within this relationship, there's this separation that happens because you never were truly there. And maybe if you had more grace with yourself and fully showed up as yourself, there would be different growth here. There might have been this growing together, but instead you just formed yourself into this box with this person to build this life that feels artificial to you. And you
Totally.
just need to start from a space of authenticity, even if that means showing up with all your weirdness. Do it. Call in your people. It makes it so much easier down the line when you have fully been yourself.
Mhm.
But that also starts from knowing who you are and doing that work.
Yeah. And there's so many things that you just said that like it's just making me think so much. I feel like the direction I kind of want to take this is actually to answer this question for myself.
Ooh, perfect segue.
How did this past year turn out compared to how you thought it would? See, I can't even like begin to tell you how different this past year is than how I thought it would go. I thought at the beginning of this year that oh my God. Yeah, I think so. I come from a background of being very, very individualistic, which is why I think this is a really nice segue. Hang on, I'm about to burp. Maybe not. Okay, I'm good.
It's a different type of purge about to come out now.
Yeah, I was like, "Ooh." uh, but yeah, I come from a background that's so individualistic, and I think that for a long time I've always wanted to change the world. That's always what I said. I want to change the world. I want to change the world. I want to change the world. I'm gonna go do all these things. I'm gonna travel. I'm gonna go see the world. I'm gonna post videos about it. I'm gonna share my perspective with so many other people. I'm gonna figure out all the world's problems. I'm going to figure it all out. And I know it sounds kind of like goofy or silly saying it out loud, but this is really the way that I felt. I felt like I wouldn't say that I always thought that I could be the one to figure out all the world's problems, but I viewed it as my deepest role to the world was to figure out as many problems as possible that I could figure out. And this was my life force is I'm going to go about and I'm just going to go solve all these problems. And this very, very, very quickly led to me just feeling incredibly burnt out and incredibly like I don't really know what I'm doing anymore. And what I started to realize is that I was doing all of this wanting to go out and solve the world's problems and do all these things just because I wanted other people to love me. I wanted other people to feel happy that I could bring this utility into their life. And so my big gargantuan, I'm going to go solve as many problems as possible was my way of saying, I want to receive love from everything. I want to receive love from all these people all over the world. I want all of them to just feel like I'm this great human being, that I'm so awesome. And of course, that sounds great. Except for I realized that really this was just my way of shielding myself, of not allowing other people kind of just to love me where I'm at. I guess the best way to kind of put it is that yeah, I really was forming this identity around not who I actually was, but just who I thought that other people would love. And I've said that before on this podcast, and it's just it hits home for me every single time I say it, because I think that this whole energy of I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go achieve, 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 achieve. Really, it was I'm just craving love. I'm craving someone to really see me. I need to do these special things because I don't really feel special. I don't feel special where I am. I feel like there are parts of me that are unlovable, that I feel shame about. And there's a way that I can show people how great I am, because I understand that where I am now does not deserve love. And yeah, after I kind of like sat with it and unpacked all of that, I kind of started to realize that like I don't want to do this at all. I don't want to go save the world. I don't want to go do all these grandiose things. And of course, all I really want to do is just to be myself. That's really it. And I feel like the greatest gift that I can give other people is permission to do the same. Just
Mm-hmm.
like we're all weird. Some of us are just better at pretending like they're not. Like whoop de doo. You know what I mean?
We're all a bunch of weirdos.
Totally. And yeah, it's I really feel like I've kind of just been breaking down this hyper individualism this past year. And the whole route of being the achiever has kind of turned inside out, where I realized that if I'm always seeking something, I'm never actually arriving, ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's really that energy of like I was talking about earlier, like you're searching for the end of the rabbit hole. You're searching for the end of the tunnel. But I started to realize that while I'm in that seeking energy, while I'm always looking, 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 the destination never really arrives. And it might for a second, like I might have a moment where I choose something, and for like a week or a day, I feel really, really, really good. But the only way that I could keep going on was by creating a new achievement, by creating a new thing,
Mm-hmm.
where on the other side of this tunnel is my paradise that I'm waiting for. But like I said, the paradise never actually arrives. And so I started to realize like maybe I could take it inside out. Maybe I could say like, if I'm never seeking, am I always arriving? Like, is there a way that I could never be like, I need to change, I need to do something different? And in this way, just notice the love that's already here, notice the love that's already around me, and notice how I'm really feeling, and what are these energies in my life that I do feel like are causing that I want to change, and what are the energies in my life that I'd like to be more grateful that they're already here. I'm grateful for the blue sky, I'm grateful for the trees, I'm grateful for the grass, I'm grateful to be talking with you right now, I'm grateful to have a voice where I can speak, I'm grateful to have this picture of me as my 3-year-old self. I'm grateful for all of it. And then at the same time, kind of be grateful for my pain too. I'm grateful that yesterday was a hard day. I feel like I needed a day of rest, and I didn't want to acknowledge that. And you know what? I'm grateful for this because now I know that when I'm feeling tired, it's okay to just relax. Like, it's okay. And I also feel like, kind of thinking about what you were saying, I think a lot of us have this thought distortion in our heads that the only way for us to receive love is to give it. Like, we're not of worth to the world unless we're giving. We have to give. We have to make money. We have to have a career. We have to do all these things in order for us to receive love. And that's the only way. If you're not giving, then you're useless. You're worthless. You're of no value. And I just, this year, I've just kind of thought that it's the exact opposite. That it's a gift when we allow others to love us. Like, we're giving them a gift. Like, for you to love me, I represent things about you that you're given the opportunity to love when you love me.
That just gave me chills.
Yay! Chills are awesome.
Yeah, because it's so true. There's like this vulnerability there that's like, I feel so comfortable and so ready to be loved by you. And that is such a gift. And so often we give, we give, we give, we give, we give, we give because we think it'll make it easier on ourselves, make it easier for us to be loved. But it never truly does. The most times, or the times when it is the most rewarding, or we do receive the most love, is typically when we're just being ourselves, which it's crazy because it's like, yeah, like this is the end of the rabbit hole. I'm going to get there. I'm going to look, I'm going to achieve, I'm going to strive for it. But it just makes me think that whenever you meet older people, they always tell you to enjoy the journey. At some point there's a start, at some point there is an end, and at some point we all get to each point, we get to each end. So maybe by trying to arrive, you are always there. Trying is the journey, trying is the achievement. Like that is the end goal, is getting there, having fun while getting there too, and taking it for all sides of it.
Totally. Yeah, and just enjoying this beautiful ride. And I think that it's really, really hard to kind of have this perspective that we're talking about without an inherent faith in the universe. I really do think that it's everything because if you view this universe as hostile, if you view this universe as separate from you, if you view this universe as that your existence is just some unintentional byproduct, then you feel like everything is working against you and that you have to be fighting all the time. And that, I mean, I think an easier way to describe this, my firmest belief that the universe can never be working against us because it is us. Like, the wave and the ocean don't move independently from each other; they're one and the same. And I think that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you listened to or watched The Egg Theory?
No, what's the egg theory? That's cool.
Oh my gosh, I have to send you that YouTube video. Essentially, the video is this man who passes away and dies, and now he's a speck in the universe again, and gets met by this like godly figure who explains to them the afterlife and what happens
Mm,
and how we are going to come back into ourselves through other forms on this life,
mm,
on this earth. But the egg theory is to picture the universe as an egg, as this life force, and every single person exists within that egg.
mm,
And as we pass away, our consciousness, which has no physical form, is placed into these beings on earth, humans, us, me, you, and we have these physical forms. We have these lives that we live, and time's not linear. So as we place our souls into these earthly beings and bodies, they happen at any point in time. And the egg theory essentially is that your soul has been placed into every single body on this earth. You have lived every single life. You have been every being. You have been every person, every good, every bad. Every time you think that you know somebody or they feel so familiar, it's because you know them. Anytime you are jealous of somebody, you are jealous of things that you have already achieved. Anytime you are mad at somebody, you are mad at the reflection that you see of yourself. When you are
mm,
happy, when you are excited, when you are proud of yourself, even if it's not your reflection in this physical life that you are staring at. Me staring at you right now, me having this conversation with you right now, this is having a conversation with myself.
mm,
The same way, if I jump and I live a life of a writer in the 1920s, like I am I am that person just as much as I am this person, just as much as I am you. And all of these lives give me lessons. All of these lives give me the fluidity that I need to move through each one easier and easier and easier as you go along,
mm,
until you end your lessons, until you end all of your life cycles. And then you yourself become that godly, beautiful being that introduces souls into their new life.
mm.
And
That's
it's
so
this
cool.
ever ending circle of like, holy crap, I'm everybody and
Mm,
I'm nobody. And there is such beauty in that. And it also allows you to meet people along your journey with so much more grace.
mm,
Meet people, even meeting yourself. Like there have been times in my career and my friendships, even times in Costa Rica, I'm like, holy crap, these people are so advanced from me. They are so different from me. I feel so detached. But if I think egg theory, I am every single one of these people. All of these persons, they are all me. All of their accomplishments, those are mine too. And I am proud of those accomplishments. I'm not jealous about them because I've done that. I've lived that. That is me.
mm,
What I don't like about this person, that's just what I don't like about myself.
mm. Totally,
There is a different insight that you get when you think about the world in that way.
totally.
And I've always thought that that was so beautiful, as like bizarre as that may seem, because you're like, holy crap, I've been the worst people. If that means that I've been every bad person on this earth, holy crap, that's horrible.
Yeah,
But that also means that you were probably some fantastic, beautiful people too. And again, going back to the duality of it all, both have to exist in order for us to feel what we would deem the greater one.
totally. So true. And it also, like, all you saying that makes me think, these invisible hierarchies that we create. And I also, okay, remind me, I want to say this, and then I have two other points that I want to touch on. So after this, I want to come back to those 2 points that it
Mm-hmm.
made me think of. But it also makes me think of like these invisible hierarchies that we create for like what makes a human great or what makes a human beautiful. It's so arbitrary because I feel like, let's say that a human that's worth admiring is one that is incredibly intelligent. It's like, dude, dogs aren't intelligent at all, and they're just so lovely. Like they don't know 12 languages or they don't know how to solve this complex problem. They just love you. That's why we love them. They're just zest and joy. And I even used to volunteer at a place for developmentally disabled adults. And IQ test or whatever intelligence test that you want to measure, they're failing it. You know, I've never felt more happy than being around those human beings. They would set them up to the administration there at Kid Adult Center would have them have jobs that they could do, and they literally can't pay them hourly because they always get so distracted with having fun. So they pay them by unit. It's like per unit of defective soap that you dismantle, or per unit of beads that you separate into different. And some of them will walk away after the day making like 85 cents, and they just don't care because they love their little job. But you know what? If the wobble comes on, they're jumping up out of their chairs and they're dancing. You know
I
what I
love
mean?
it.
And it's like even just a little fly. A fly has no intelligence. It's not deep. It's not, you know, it's nothing. But a fly loves good fruit. I love good fruit. A fly loves flying around in the wind. That sounds amazing. A fly loves cleaning their little hands. It's like, does feel good after you wash your hands, you know? So I feel like these hierarchies that we've created for what's worthy of love or what's not, I feel like it's just all in our head. And I feel like it's when we start comparing ourselves to these arbitrary hierarchies that we start kind of feeding into this energy of I'm not enough. And when we
Mm.
start feeding into this energy of I'm not enough, like I really do feel like that's when we begin to close ourselves off from connection, and that's when the cycle continues. Like, I feel like I'm not enough, so I have to hide these parts of myself, and now I'm feeling more disconnected from the world around me, which is making me
Hmm.
feel more shame, so I put even more walls up, and then we just start feeling something's wrong with me, and it
Yeah,
becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like,
it's that circle.
totally. Yeah, and I always say that someone who's perfectly secure has no reason to make themselves feel better by putting you down. And that's like the end goal, right? The end goal is to be
Hmm.
secure in ourselves. And the people that are judging us would never feel the need to judge us if they're perfectly secure in themselves?
Hmm.
So, yeah, kind of like going back to the other point that I wanted to touch on was with relationships. Like, I used to just think, how much work do we have to do until we're ready for a relationship? How do I know when I'm ready? How do I know when I'm not? What I've started to really think is that the only work that we need to do before a relationship is just realizing that we don't need to do any work. That's
Yeah.
it. Like, that's literally it. Because I think the more that you feel like there's something wrong with you, the more when you're in a relationship, you're going to push someone away.
Yeah.
Do
And
you know what
there's
I'm
not
saying?
this need to strive to be perfect to be loved. Like, you can be loved at any point in time. Allow
Totally.
yourself to be loved. That's the
100%.
most important thing, is just opening it up and say, hey, universe, like, I'm ready to be loved. Like, I am deserving of that love. Whether that love comes through in friendships, in family, in romance, that love's going to come through regardless. But it starts with you saying, oh, I'm deserving of that love. Even if right now I feel a little broken, if I feel a
Totally.
little dense, if I feel a little judgmental, it's
100%.
not this idea of you have to be at this point in life, you have to have all of these ducks in a row in order for love to find you. Love's everywhere. Love is
Yeah.
literally everywhere that you turn. It's just, are you open and are you aware and ready to receive it?
Yeah, totally. And literally so true. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. And like, you're always gonna be a gift for someone else to love. Always. You're always gonna
Hmm.
represent things in that person that person is able to come to deeper love within themselves by loving you. And I feel like, yeah, like all our only work is just to be open to it. And of course, we're always gonna have insecurities and we're gonna have pain. I think as long as we're just open about that and we can communicate, it's okay. It's just okay.
Yeah. I think those communications and those conversations start with yourself first. But it
Hmm.
makes it so much easier when you do find yourself in those partnerships and relationships to vocalize that.
Hmm.
I think when you start to hold it in, to harbor it, that's when the disconnection seeps deeper and deeper into your system. And you can never really get the connection that you crave if you're not connecting with yourself.
Yeah,
If you're not allowing
totally.
yourself to feel that. If you're not allowing yourself to verbalize that. Again, out the mouth, out the mind.
Totally. I also
Yeah.
started doing this one thing this year that, like, yeah, like piggybacking off of what you just said. So I kind of started to do this thing this past year where I'll take how I feel and I'll really, really sit with it. And I've started to do this thing where I'll separate my beliefs from who I am. So let's say
Mm,
that I have this belief that, oh my gosh, I'm not ready for a relationship. I'm not ready to receive love. I'm feeling really closed off. Or I'm feeling really unlovable. I feel like people won't really want to be with me right now. I'm feeling like a bum. And then I feel this way and I feel bad. And then I get into the cycle of self loathing. It's like, I really can't stand that I'm closed off to love. I really can't stand that I'm unloving. I really can't stand. And then it just gives me all the more reason to not like myself because I'm closing
mm,
myself off. It's like, why would I like myself if I'm causing myself pain? Why? Why would
right.
I like myself if I'm causing myself pain? I've literally sat with this question for like weeks. Like, why would I love parts of myself that cause me pain? And I started to do this thing where I'll separate the belief from myself. So I'll say, this belief that I have that I'm not lovable, it sucks. I really don't like it. It feels really, really bad. And I can dislike this belief and still love myself.
Mm,
Do you know what I'm saying? And so now when we start to like feel bad about what we're believing or our perceptions or our thoughts, whatever, it doesn't have to take me into this spiral of self-loathing. Where like, ah, I can't stand that I feel this way. It's like, no, I don't like this belief, and I still love myself. And you know what? Maybe I don't like this belief because it's not true. Maybe I don't love it because I am lovable the way that I am. I am a gift. It's a gift for others to get to love me. It's a freaking gift, and maybe that's why it feels so bad because it's not true.
I think the way that I speak to my ego self or my higher self, I think that's the way you speak to your ego self and the way that you speak to your higher self.
Ah,
That
yeah,
is the way that your brain rationalizes it and the way that you communicate with yourself is to see yourself separate from those thought patterns. Because maybe seeing them as feelings, as things that you are experiencing, isn't really true. You're only seeing them as a thought. You're not feeling them as a feeling. So pull yourself away from that. And what is that thought? You
totally.
know?
Yeah, so true. Like just creating that space for me, it's been a game changer. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that totally is how I talk to my higher self. That is, I really sit back and I'm like you could even play it, make it fun. Hypothetically, what if I just believed that right now I was the shit? That like
Yeah.
everybody just wanted to love me so hard that I was just so beautiful and so lovely. And maybe I don't want every single person to feel that way. Maybe I just want some people to be like
Yeah.
attracted to me. Like what if I did
Totally.
believe that, hey, when you love me, you're about to get the biggest gift ever.
You
You're
about
about
to
to feel
really get
good.
loved.
You're about to feel good.
You ready for all this love?
Oh, literally. And it's like, what if I just did that thought experiment for like a day? Like how would
Mm-hmm.
my state of being change? And that's why Zen is so cool because they're saying that like those things that bring you nourishment and laughter and healing, it does that because it's the truth. Like
Yeah.
it's who you are.
It's important to be a silly goose.
Exactly. Oh my god, so true. Yeah, you got to
I
show the tattoo for the camera.
Where is it? Where there they are.
Let's go, silly goose.
I had somebody at my job and they were looking at my tattoos and trying to be a little like snarky and silly and sarcastic and they were like, "Yeah, you and that stupid duck." I said, "Excuse me, sir. It's a silly goose."
Tell them. Oh hell yeah,
Oh, it was so funny.
it's epic. Okay, so the other point that I want to talk on as well,
Yes.
taking the silly goose to a more serious topic.
A serious goose, if we
Yeah,
will.
serious goose. All right, we'll take the hat off for a sec. Serious mama goose vibes right now. Mama goose defending baby gooselings. So to pivot to the mama goose vibes, I feel like that perspective that we were talking about with like egg theory or the ocean or like that the universe cannot be working against you because it is you becomes increasingly difficult. Like if you've had an experience in your life that is not okay, whether that's assault or you felt literally afraid for your life, or maybe you felt in so much pain mentally and emotionally that it's like, how could you ever say that this experience was God, that this experience was the best for me, that this experience was good for me? Like this thing happened to me and I was legitimately a victim of this circumstance. I was legitimately a victim of assault. I
Mhm.
was legitimately a victim of, I mean, think about the people in Gaza, Like, how could you say to these people that the universe is working for you, and they're literally just being slaughtered. They're being killed.
Yeah, I see a lot of people actually speaking about that on social media now, of this idea of almost spiritually bypassing a lot of our human experience, because it's true. Yeah, there is this aspect of these things are happening to you, for you, with you, and everything's going to work out in the end, and we need to have the negatives so we can have the positives. Both exist, yada yada yada. But I think people forget that this is very real. This is very human. These experiences, yes, they will be a catalyst for some sort of growth, I'm sure, but it doesn't make them any less harmful. It doesn't make that experience, whether you've lived it or moved through it or not, it doesn't make it less hurtful, detrimental. It doesn't, I don't know. I feel like I have like such, because I've experienced that. Like I have experienced assault and
Me too.
very many negative relationships, and have gone through a lot of loss, a lot of grief, a lot of trauma. I can look at it now from a different perspective, and I'm happy for the point that I'm at now. I'm happy for the lessons that I've learned and where it has put me now. But in those moments, at those points, and in those times, like to spiritually bypass it feels like an injustice, feels like a disservice to myself, like a disservice as well to say like, oh, it's only happening because like A, B, and C. Like, you know, whether that be like, oh, the universe is working with me. It's all going to be fine. It's okay that like I got assaulted. It's okay that my cousin died. It's okay that we have a genocide going on. Like everything's going to work out fine. Like the universe works for us. To some extent, sure. Yes. But we are on this earth as humans having a human experience. Yes, we are spiritual beings for sure, but our experience is human. And to only sit with the spiritual is a disservice to the human. It's a disservice to humanity as a whole to deny that as well. Like
Mm.
you can't just sit there and say, "Oh, well, Mercury's in retrograde. Like everything's gonna like come out. Like the last time our degree was in like 29 in Pluto was like whatever American Revolution or something like that, and we're sitting in that right now. How similar? It's like we're human.
Mm.
Love being spiritual. Love everything that falls under that umbrella, but we are human.
Mm.
And we need to sit with those human feelings. We need to sit with those human emotions, and we actually need to have a human response to them and not just a spiritual one.
Mm.
We can trust our intuition, we can trust our gut, we can go along with that for sure, and as we should. But we should never use spirituality as a scapegoat.
Mm.
You know,
Totally.
that should, like, spirituality should never be our martyr. Like
Yeah,
that
I
just,
love that.
it should not happen. Like we have to be human. And if we are not human, I think that's a huge issue. And I think
Mm.
so many people are looking for disconnection because within our humanity and within this world that we're existing in, there is so much negativity that we want to pull away from. We don't want to acknowledge the hurt, the harm that we do to ourselves, to others, but we have to.
Mm.
Like, we have to acknowledge it. We have to acknowledge how terrible it is, how horrible it feels. And we have to try and seek that change and that justice as a human, not as a spiritual being.
Yeah, dude, that's fucking deep. I love that so much.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to acknowledge those things, and I really do think that's why so many people get turned off to spirituality. Is because of spiritual bypassing. I think
Yeah.
this idea where you legitimately are a victim at this moment, that you have experienced this, for someone to come around and say it's for the greater good, that's the last thing you want to hear. Like
Gosh, no.
right now, this fucking sucks, and that's the truth. And I feel like, to go back to Zen, I feel like I always say before I go to Zen. But anyway, to go back to Zen, they talk about conventional truths and absolute truths, or ultimate.
Mm-hmm.
And so they say that the two can exist at the same time. You can be a human being and ultimately be the universe experiencing itself. And they say that actually, if you look more deeply into the conventional, you see the ultimate. It's like
Mm.
in physics, there's Newtonian physics. But as soon as you get into the quantum world, you have to throw away all the Newtonian laws. But if you look deeply into Newtonian physics, you can actually see quantum physics at work. So it's really interesting because I feel like with the whole trauma thing and people who have experienced serious trauma and just had this idea that, the universe is out to get them. First of all, it's incredibly, incredibly sad. And there are times in my life where I felt this way. And it's
Mm.
so, 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 so difficult, where I just feel pissed off at life. And yeah, and that's all I want to do at this moment, is just to be mad. I think that's okay too. And I think that, kind of going to what I was talking about earlier, I think that sometimes the truth of a situation is that it's traumatic because it's not the truth. It's not the way that you deserve to be treated. It's not the representation of who you are. It's
Yeah.
not the representation of who someone else is, you know? Like, as someone who has also hurt other people, there's nothing that makes me feel worse than hurting others. It is the worst feeling ever. It's a projection of pain that I feel that I end up taking out on other people. And I almost feel worse being the one to inflict pain on other people because when I'm the one feeling a ton of pain, it's horrible. When I'm the one inflicting a ton of pain, I feel like I'm a monster. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I'm someone who is inherently messed up, who's inherently just horrible. And I think that honestly, I think that the masculine energy imbalanced is one of being a perpetrator. It's the one of
Mm-hmm.
violence. It's the one of taking our pain and then taking it out on other people. And that doesn't mean it has to necessarily be a man. I just think it's the masculine energy.
Yeah, that
I think
divine
that the feminine,
masculine.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think that the feminine energy out of balance is the opposite. It's one of not showing up and not stepping into
Mm.
your full power. So, it could be in a friendship where you feel a lot of pain and you're not showing up as yourself because you've been so hurt, because you've been in this position where you need to guard yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I feel like these two energies, it's like the perpetrator and the victim of any situation where people are attacked. And
Yeah.
I think that every single one of us has experienced both sides of that. And I really think it's important to go within myself to look at two sides of this coin because I believe that anybody who's the perpetrator of an energy was first the victim of it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take what's going on in Israel right now. You know, it's Jewish people are inflicting this pain upon Palestine, a horrible genocide. And literally 3 generations ago, they were the victims of an intense genocide. So we're literally seeing that they were kicked out of their homes. They said that they have no place to go, and then they were all just displaced and moved to Israel. And this is where you guys will feel safe. And now, 3 generations down the line, they feel threatened with their home, or in whatever capacity, whether that's they're trying to expand and Palestinians are saying no, whatever that is. I see that this energy of feeling like you don't have a home now, instead of being the victim of it, they're the perpetrators of it. That
Mm-hmm.
to create our home, we need to create our home, and it's a totally imbalanced masculine energy, you know, and that doesn't make what Israel is doing okay. It doesn't say that like, oh, they have every right to do this because they're in pain. No, no, it doesn't mean that at all. I just think that when we allow ourselves to look more deeply into a conventional truth, into a surface level truth, we can see the absolute. We can see that these people are projecting a thought distortion of
Mm.
I don't belong anywhere. I don't belong, I don't belong, I don't belong. And so they're
Yeah.
totally imbalancing this energy and pushing it out. So yeah, and I think that again when you think about like, okay, so how is this the universe working for the Israelis? Like how is this the universe working for them? Well, every single person listening to this, every single person, you felt this way, I felt this way. We've all felt how horrible it is to hurt another person. It feels horrible, even if it feels like great for like a day, and then you suppress it, or like a week. Eventually, these things start to eat away at you. It starts to
Mm-hmm.
feel really, 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 really horrible. And sometimes I'll say this to people, and they'll say, "What about psychopaths, sociopaths?" And I always just think like, you don't have to worry about the sociopaths. Just worry about you. Like, how do you feel when you do these things? And yeah, I feel absolutely horrible. So I'm a true believer that all evil is just ignorance. It's all self sabotage. And I
Mm-hmm.
think on the other end, what Palestine is experiencing and what we as Americans are experiencing with so many of our elected leaders continuing to fund this I mean genocide that's happening in Israel, we're also feeling pain and we're also feeling called to step into our power and say this is not who we are. This is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And same with Palestinians. This is not who we are. This is not okay. And in the same way, Israelis saying and Judaism saying, look, we felt so much pain in the past, and we don't need to project this onto other people. We don't need to be at war with the rest of the world to find our home anymore. We can
Mm-hmm.
we can be okay. We can work together and we can all find a place where we can belong on this planet. And that doesn't have to come from taking it from another person. And so when I see traumatic instances like this that are going on, it's the opposite of me saying that the universe is working for you in this traumatic instance in the sense that it's okay. It's the opposite. It's the universe working for you in the sense that this is so not okay that you're feeling such intense pain. Like, this is really,
Mhm.
really not okay.
No, there is a collective pain that is felt, that is shared. And I think going back to your point earlier when we had spoken about wanting to fix, wanting to change, wanting to be a doer and to help others, like, and it's like wanting to do all of these things, wanting to wear all of these hats and change the world. And it could feel really overwhelming because it's like, well, I am just this tiny being on this earth. Like, how do my actions help? How does what I do change this giant event that's going on? And to your point of, don't worry about the sociopaths or the psychopaths, like just worry about how it makes you feel.
Mhm,
That's kind of like all we can do, is to really sit with how it makes us feel, sit in that discomfort, and how can you in your communities, in your groups, in your spaces, how can you bring about change? By bringing about love, by bringing communication, by seeking clarity as a collective.
mhm.
I think we all get caught up on, how can I, this small being, make all of this change? And it honestly is in in those little ripples. We're all a wave, we're all a tidal, we are all part of the ocean, we all are the ocean.
Mhm.
But if we're getting caught up on getting to the shoreline, we're never fully going to do the job that we are meant to do. We
Mhm.
are never going to connect. We are never going to love. And we are never going to get to a point of change that we so seek, that we so crave. Realistically, as a sole individual American, I'm not going to be able to walk over across the world and go change it. What I can do is focus on myself, focus on my community, focus on my people, focus on the communication and the clarity that we seek and bring with one another about these events, about these things that are happening in the world. The more we do that, the bigger ripple effect we have.
So true.
Think about think about Gary.
The
Look at
legend.
what that man accomplished. And
Yeah.
all he did was focus on earth and focus on his connection to himself.
Mhm.
He, over time, created, cultivated community, creativity, nature, all of those things. And although he might not have thought it was the biggest thing that he has done, he might have not have thought it is as influential as he has done, he has created so many ripples with so many people. He has healed so much of what we needed healed, that other people don't need to wait 40 years because he put in that legwork. Sometimes it's not about you needing to change, you needing to be the one taking the credit for change. Sometimes it's about making those small changes so that way, years down the line, somebody else doesn't need to start from ground zero. Someone can
Totally.
start from your 15%. Someone can start from your 25%. You can live your life. You can end your life and know, I have done as much as I can, and somebody else can take it from here.
Yeah. And by
You
the way,
know?
for the viewers, Gary was this legend we met down in Costa Rica who
Oh, fantastic, man.
he showed us this beautiful waterfall hike and he was barefoot the whole time in the Costa Rican jungles with like bullet ants. And when I asked him, "Hey, why are you going barefoot right now?" He said, "If you're in sync with nature, nature is in sync with you." Just kept walking
Mhm.
around barefoot. So,
Yeah.
legend.
He was legendary, incredible man, sought out so much clarity and connection within himself and within nature. I'm so incredibly inspired by him every single day and the way that he thoughts and views the world. I am just enamored by the fact that he had this empty cow plot, like this meadow essentially with nothing on it, and just sprinkled some seeds. And
Yeah,
now, almost 40 years down the line, there's a
so cool.
full jungle of creatures, of lands, of sounds, of music, of beauty, of fruition.
Yeah.
And again, him setting those seeds No one else needs to wait 36 years for what he did now.
It's freaking beautiful.
And I think that is the mindset that we need to have. It's not always about doing the most, being the most, and getting that recognition for it. Sometimes it's just doing what you can with the people that you care about and who care about the same things as you do.
Totally.
And
Yeah, and
someone
even like,
else can just grow it even further from there. Like, it's a collective for a reason. We all have our hands in the pot.
yeah, dude, literally so true. Like we're not playing a single show. Like we're playing in an orchestra. We all got an instrument. Like,
Right.
and I also think that, a lot of times when we spend so much of our mental energy figuring out what can we do about all the world's problems, like we kind of neglect what we can do right now. We just feel
Yeah.
so overwhelmed. It's like, oh, what are we supposed to do about all of this? And if you ever think that, you cannot make a difference in someone's life, that you can't make a difference in the world, just think about dogs again. Like, dogs don't go write a new constitution or show up at the UN and lobby. Like, dogs dog, you know? And they
Dogs
provide,
are dogging.
if dogs didn't dog and dogs, every single dog worried about saving the world, think about how different the world would be. Like, dogs would feel a
Mm-hmm.
lot more anxious, dogs would be a lot less happy, dogs would be a lot less playful. Like, and I think that's the best analogy. It's the same way with mothers. If
Mm-hmm.
mothers were all worried about, oh my gosh, I just have 2 kids, I need to worry about bigger problems. I need to go save the world. Where would we be without moms? Literally, where would we be without them? If we
We
didn't have
wouldn't.
moms and dogs, like, this world would be screwed. It would literally be screwed. And it's so funny because if everybody has, 100% energy, you have your whole essence as Juju, I have my whole essence as Jack.
Mm-hmm.
If you're speaking to a million people, that means that every single person has 1/1 million of your essence.
Mm-hmm.
If you're speaking to one person, they have your whole essence, 100% of it.
I
If you're
love that.
impacting 3 people, they all have 33% of your essence. And like,
Mm.
so there's no like, yeah, some people are reaching more people, but when you hear an influencer online or a politician, again, you're only getting one X amount of their essence. You're
Mm-hmm.
not being nearly as deeply impacted by them as you are from a conversation with a friend or from being in person with family, or do you know what I'm saying? So we
Yeah.
all have different skills that impact each other. And I really do think that if every single person just kind of focused on playing their own instrument, this world would be so much less tangled. And I think that
Mm.
some people's instrument, I really do believe it is to lobby and to make decisions that represent us more as a collective. And you know what? When those people step into their power, into their nature, and they say, hey, we want to start a bill, a movement that's about being more environmentally sound, then you, just noticing that, man, I feel sad when I look out at all these problems, you can say, hey, this is something I care about. I would like to sign this petition. I would like to be in this protest, but it doesn't have to
Mm.
be on you to start the bill. It doesn't have to be on you to start the protest. You just focus
Mm.
on you. And then when the right spark happens, you can be a part of the fire that will change something. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
like, as a recovering, I'm going to go save the world. I think that this is a much more real way to look at things.
Ugh, I love that.
Thanks. Me
I love
too.
that so much.
I just feel so much happier when I think about it. Like, it's the same way with little kids. Like, little kids not focused
Love
on
little
saving the
kids.
world. Where would we be without little kids? Like, they're just little kidding.
Genuinely. I sometimes I try and put myself back in the mindset of being not even childlike, but like being a child, like looking through things with new eyes, learning new experiences. And genuinely, it helps so much having my niece. She's five going on 15 or 50, whichever way you look at it. But she genuinely is, she's so funny. She's so silly. Everything is so new to her. And it is so beautiful to see.
Mm.
And being childlike with her, I don't know, there's just this like beauty to it. The other day, she told me a knock knock joke, and I had never heard it before.
No
Do you know
way.
how long it's been since I heard a new knock knock joke? Since I
Dude,
heard a new joke? Like,
wait, you
I
gotta
was like,
tell it. You gotta tell it.
oh my gosh. Like, oh gosh, what was it? It was something so silly and so cute, and I had never heard it before. Oh gosh, well, here it is. was like, the honey, why did the bumblebee get married?
Why did the bumblebee get married? Is it something about honey?
Yeah, he wanted to be with his honey.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's
And
awesome.
I like looked at her and I was like, I haven't heard a new joke in like
You're like you.
20 years. Like I haven't heard a new joke like that in so long. And I had realized like, whoa, where is that humor? Where is that silliness? Where is that mind of everything is new and exciting and silly and fun and I just get to learn again? There comes a point in time where we all think we know everything. And we get so comfortable in thinking that we know everything that we don't allow ourselves to actually continue to learn. Like we are forever students of life. We are like the universe is our mentor. Like we are all an apprentice to our humanity.
Yeah. And like you were saying, everything is always new anyway. Like we can notice it or we can just pretend like it's not, you know?
Like why do we think and act like we know everything all the time? It's so boring.
Yeah,
Genuinely, it is so boring to know everything. You know what's exciting? You know what's fun? Knowing nothing.
literally.
Knowing jack shit about nothing. Like that is so much
Oh,
fun to walk in and be like, I have nothing in my brain now, right now. Like teach me everything, tell me everything. I'm so intrigued.
dude, I saw this video on Instagram the other day. That was like a compilation of these like 4-year-olds playing wiffle ball. And it was like, you might have seen it. It was like 3 weeks ago. But it was the greatest video I've seen in my entire life. Like, this kid hit the ball off the tee, was running to first, and did a cartwheel. Like, cartwheel
Yes,
while they
yes, I
were,
did see that. I did see that.
yeah. And then, like, the kid, like, hits the ball and then just charged at the pitcher. Like, charged at the pitcher to tackle them. Like,
Love
and
it.
all the parents were like, no, 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 no. But he thought it was like football. Dude, it was the greatest video ever.
Oh,
And
I
there was
love
this
kids.
kid
I
like
love
in
that
the
silliness.
outfield as the ball went by who was just like dancing and they were like, hit the ball. And he was just like,
See, and videos like that make me
oh,
so happy because that was always me. I didn't care about winning the game or playing the sport or listening to the yelling adult. Like, I was having fun. Like, I knew no one was hitting a ball to me. I was sitting, petting the grass, like hanging out, like being super zen as all the way out in the fields or even
dude,
when I played hockey growing up, like I was the only female one on the team at one point, and I just had these giant braids and nothing
oh,
really was going on. So I would just skate really fast across the ice with my like pigtails flying out the back, and it's
oh.
so silly. Like there's this emphasis on silliness, on not being serious, and I think it's so freaking beautiful, and I
Dude,
think
when
we
you
need more of
describe it
that.
like that too, it makes me like really think about how, like, like you don't really care about wiffle ball. Like, you don't really care about hockey. Like, you're just doing it because your parents want you to. Like,
Yeah, I just wanted to be silly.
you're just kind of like standing there, like, and they're like, get him, Juju, and you're like, oh, okay.
I'm like, oh, I guess I have something to do now. Hold on.
Like the organized sport for kids, it's more for the parents than it is for the kids. Like, I mean, kids do like some organization, but like when I was 4 years old, ages 4 through like 14, the only thing that I wanted to do legitimately was run as fast as I could.
Oh
That
my
was
gosh.
it. Like, soccer let me run as fast as I can, which is why I played soccer. But
Hmm.
that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to run as fast as I can and make my dad and mom happy. They thought that I
Yeah,
was good at soccer, so I ran as fast as I could while I played soccer. Match made in heaven. That's it.
there we go.
Yeah. Oh man.
Ugh.
Oh, Juju, this was so freaking fun.
This was like so healing.
That means, according to Faye, that it was the truth.
Ooh, I got chills on that one too.
Let's go. Dude, I totally agree. Oh my god, it's so always so lovely talking to you, Juju. I'm so
It
grateful
is
that you
so lovely
came
talking
on.
to you always. Picking that big old brain of yours.
Oh, dude, likewise, likewise. The silly goose energy was
Mhm.
coming through.
Totally. What did I tell you once before? Oh, it still rings true that I want to pitch a tent in your brain and live in there.
Aw, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. Sometimes you really don't, though. Trust me. I'm just kidding.
Honor all parts of yourself, okay?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Even the dark parts, they got some good stars there, you know?
Yeah. It's like, look, you can walk into a room and want to turn on those lights and want to have that brightness and that vibrancy. But
Totally.
whether you acknowledge it or not, when you walked into that room, the first thing you understood was that it was dark.
Mm, facts.
You know?
True.
Before you flip that switch, you had to acknowledge that it was dark first.
Mhm.
And that's what we got to do here too. Before we flip the switches and have all the fun and all the excitement, we got to understand sometimes the room could be a little dark.
Totally. Love that so much.
Me too.
All right, Juju. I love you so much.
I love you more.
And all the viewers who listened all the way through, I hope you felt nourished and healed as much as we did during this conversation.
Yeah. I hope you had as much fun as we did.
Same. Likewise. I totally agree.
All
All
right.
right. Much love. Peace.
Bye.